When you come into a session for brainstorming, you come in, you check your ego in at the door, but you bring your respect in. You realize that you have to listen to the other person.
What makes a brainstorming session a great one? Does it only happen when you think alike with other people? My guest is Hasan Abbasi. He is a principal engineer at Amazon CloudWatch. We worked together for many years now. Every time we brainstormed, it was fruitful, efficient, but most importantly, pure joy. He and we took a walk and we talked about what is it that we do and don't that makes our sessions the best ones out there. I'm Mustafa Torun, and this is Walk the Talk, Builder Conversations. Whenever I brainstorm with you, I have a lot of fun. I think we can go very deep together and explore lots of ideas without judging each other. Let's share our learnings. What works, what doesn't work when you're brainstorming.
When you mentioned this discussion, I actually thought a lot about what has allowed us to be good partners in our design process, in brainstorming. And at first, when I thought about it, I thought one way to think about it is that we think alike. But I thought back to a lot of the brainstorming sessions, and we actually don't often start at the same point. And we don't often have the same perspective. And so, I thought a little bit deeper about it, and I sort of identified 4 things that make our brainstorming sessions productive. Respect, open-mindedness, perspective.
What's the 4th one?
Having strong opinions.
So let's start with the first one. Respect.
Respect. And I think respect is the real good foundation of collaboration of all sorts. Right? You cannot collaborate with someone who doesn't respect you or that you don't respect. And not just respect the person, but respect the opinion, respect what they have done previously, respect their approaches, and respect their position. Often people will come into a discussion and they'll have a very hostile attitude. That hostile attitude is not really helping get over any humps. But when you come into a session for brainstorming, you come in, you check your ego in at the door, but you bring your respect in. You realize that you have to listen to the other person or other persons. And at the same time, you want to make sure that you respect your opinions and other people's opinions. You respect the perspective that they bring, the approach that they're talking about. Because without that, you will never really intently listen to them. If you just want to listen to yourself, there are better ways to do it. For example, recording yourself. The second part of it is that you have to be open-minded. If you come into a session and you have already made up your mind about what is the path that you want to take to find a solution. If you've said, I want to follow these steps to get to the end, and I don't care what other people think, I will only take these steps. And no matter what someone tells you on what path can improve your situation, you're not going to listen to them because you've already made a decision. It's very hard to change hearts. It's easy to change minds, but once you are in love with your own idea, once you're in love with your own opinions, it's very hard to change your heart. This doesn't make for a productive brainstorming session.
Nothing wrong with starting with some proposal. You know what? Hey, how about this? But then if for the entirety of brainstorming session, you will never consider other options. You will fight with the person who's hey, how about this, how about that? And you're no, not this, not that. That's not a brainstorming anymore. That's more like you are trying to sell your idea.
Exactly. It's a sales call versus a ideas call. Right? And I think that it makes a big difference. I think to combine those two together, right? Respect and open-mindedness, they actually go very well together. You only will listen to other people's opinion if you actually bring respect in for them. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't respect someone, you will tell them what should be the right way to do it, but you will not hear what they are telling you.
The open-mindedness bit is very important.
Yes.
We never feel scared to tell each other some crazy start from
completely crazy, right?
Never feel if I say this, they will think I'm dumb.
There have been many instances where we are discussing an approach to solving a problem. And we'll start by taking telling you how things should happen, right? And then when you get to the end, when you write it on the board, you're you know what? I'm an idiot. It doesn't work. And I cannot tell you how many times I've actually said those exact words to people when I'm brainstorming with them. You come in with an open mind, and you come in with respect. Because if you feel that someone is going to attack you,
I see,
you will be less likely to give an honest opinion.
You and I, we could walk into a brainstorming session. Usually there are other people in the room as well. Somebody in the room ends up being the most senior or the most familiar with the stuff we are talking about. They need to establish like this environment so that everybody can feel comfortable regardless of their seniority. They should feel comfortable. I think there were a couple of examples. We introduced people who are more junior than us, and they say something in those meetings. I was like, that's brilliant. You know, like that's really cool.
I'll give you a recent example. Like we are working on a large project, and I came up with an approach. Like, I thought like I can solve this problem by building my own solution. I took this to the senior SPE, and she was like, okay, this is interesting. Let me dive deeper into this. And then after some thought, like, she came back with a whole brand new set of ideas.
Okay.
And when I worked with her on the brainstorming, like, we drew it on the board, and we said, you know what, this is so much cheaper, easier, and simpler to maintain. My approach would work, right? But I didn't think through all the complexities of it.
I think you're pointing to something important. Not every great idea comes through brainstorming.
Yes.
I remember a recent example you and I had. We brainstormed for an hour or two, and we hit a wall. You said, let me go ahead and write this down, and then you'll take it from there. And you came back the following week, and we read your document, and like, you solved it. So I think the moral of the story is, after brainstorming, that literally that storm in your mind, sit by yourself and think and maybe document it.
Yeah.
It just like dust settles and you see everything clearly.
I think these are the 2 points that like we should talk about after.
Did we talk about third and fourth? Or
yeah, we haven't gotten to the third
Let's go to the third one.
Third one is that you have to be able to realize that other people have diversity in perspectives.
Yeah.
Right? Perspective is very important because people will always come up with an idea that fits with the vision that they have.
Yeah.
And you can never like dismiss the place that a person is at.
Yeah.
Right. You can say that like maybe I don't agree with this approach, right? Like maybe we should think about, making some changes, but like you have to do it with this mind that like you and they have an equally valuable perspective. You may not have an equal amount of knowledge, but you have an equal amount of knowledge about yourself. And I think that's very important because if you ignore why people are saying something, sometimes like you'll hear something, but you don't realize why it's being said. And I think that creates this atmosphere that like you're ignoring the foundation of the idea. If you ignore the foundation, then everything else above that would be weak. On very large projects, especially multi-team, cross-organization projects, each of the teams will come in with a perspective of their team.
We talk about this putting hats on, right?
Well, putting hats on. That's a nice way of putting it.
There are times that you are within your team and you have your team hat on. You are trying to do the best for your team. And when you are amongst other teams, you need to think, like, is this going to benefit the whole company? Because I'm an owner of this company.
Exactly. One of the perspective is like, what is your end goal?
Yeah.
Your team's goal may be to reduce theft2.
Theft is a high severity event.
High severity event.
Yeah.
Or you could like have a team that like focused very much on revenue, right? You want to generate more revenue, but like that is the perspective that you're bringing.
Yeah.
But when you come into a large setting where people have many different perspectives, you have to respect and you have to understand where people are coming from. And I like this analogy of putting metaphor of putting hats on.
Yeah.
You have to be able to say, I understand why you're saying. The fourth one is that you cannot just come into a brainstorming session with no perspective of yourself. Like you have to have an opinion, a goal that you're trying to get out. You have to come into the brainstorming session so that with some opinion that you take forward.
Yeah.
If all the participants of the brainstorming session have no opinions at all, have no approaches in their mind, I mean, then yes, it's a very pure brainstorming, but I don't think it's like a productive session of brainstorming.
Yeah.
In the brainstorming session, you have a very big fan into a single session from people. Like they do their own thinking. They come into a room. And when they come out, hopefully the fan out is smaller than the fan in was in number of ideas. Sometimes that's not true. And that's not a bad thing, right? Like it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, you're there to figure out how many options are out.
You need to build a feedback loop around this, right? Like you think through some thoughts on your own, come into a room, combine those thoughts, come up with more thoughts. And then you go back and you repeat the loop. And in the loop process, I think one thing that like you mentioned, let the dust settle, write a document. Because once you start writing things down, once you start putting them on paper, it not just allows you to work through the sharp edges in your approaches. Because, you're thinking, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
When you're just talking about it on the board, you may not realize all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
When you write it down, you're sort of reading it back to yourself, like you these ideas come to you.
Yeah.
So to take the example of what happened in our previous brainstorming that you mentioned with the doc, I think after I left the room,
Yeah.
I had no such thoughts in my mind. But when I started writing the doc, when I started drawing the image, I realized that the approach that we drew on the board was very close to what I drew on the image. I just cut some lines out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I converted a pipeline into a star, effectively. And that's not like a major change, but it only came to me when I started drawing that picture. I think if I had started from a well-made diagram already, I would not even have realized that. Like coming in after the brainstorming session, writing the doc really helps solidify thinking.
This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was like brainstorming.
I mean, it's such a big topic, so it's hard to.
We should have talk about it afterwards.
Let's go and let the dust settle. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mustafa. Get a piece of paper so I can make fake notes like.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. We messed it up. Hi, I'm Mustafa Torun, and I'm slouching. Today, I'm with my friend,
And
also colleague,